Really, man, come on. 6 o'clock news says somebody been shot. Somebody's been abused. Somebody blew up a building. Somebody stole a car. Somebody got away. Somebody didn't get too far. They didn't get too far.
Grandpappy told my pappy back in my day, son, a man had the answer for the wicked that he done. Take all the rope in Texas, find a tall oak tree, round up all of them bad boys, hang 'em high in the street. For all the people to see.
That just is one thing you should always find. You gotta settle up your boys. You gotta draw a hard line.
When the gunfolk settlers will sing a victory tune, and we'll all meet back at the local saloon.
We'll raise up our glasses against evil forces, singing, whiskey for my men, beer for my horses. We ain't got too many gangsters doing dirty things.
Too much corruption and crime in the streets.
It's time the long arm of the law put a few more in the ground.
And I'm all to their maker, and he'll settle on them.
You can bet you settle down. Cause justice is the one thing you should always find. You gotta settle up your boys. You gotta draw a hard line.
When the gunfolk settlers will sing a victory tune, and we'll all meet back at the local saloon.
And we'll raise up our glasses against evil forces, saying, whiskey for my man, beer for my horses. Whiskey for my man, beer for my horses. The one thing you should always find. You gotta saddle up your boys. You gotta draw a hard line.
When the gunfolk settlers will sing a victory tune, and we'll all meet back at the local saloon.
And we'll raise up our glasses against evil forces, singing, whiskey for my man, beer for my horses. Singing whiskey for my man, beer for my horses. Who's the black private dick? That's a sack machine to all the chicks. You're damn right. Welcome to another live Radical Republican show. I am your host, the J Black Mamba. Bringing it to you live, unedited, unfiltered, unscripted, uncensored, unapologetic truth here in the Lion's Den on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm glad y'all could join me. Hope y'all had a good week. We're going to bring it in. It's part 3 tonight. We're going to close it out tonight. We're going to close it out these communists and Negroes. My 3-part series. If you missed parts 1 and 2, you got to go catch up. Go catch up on the show, parts 1 and 2, because part 3, we're going to stitch it all together. And then we're going to have a guest. We're going to have a guest in the last hour of the show, hour and 15 minutes, depends on when I get done. We're going to have Ann Craftatus in the house tonight. We're going to talk about education and how our education system is communist and how it has worked with the Communist Party of the USA and the Negroes to keep the division going and dumb down all of the kids of America, not just the black ones. Because like I said before, we were once educated, a very educated nation. And now I think the state of Virginia came in at number 50 a couple of years ago. I think they might still be around 50. So hope y'all are in the house tonight. Thank y'all again for tuning in. Like I say, you guys, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me okay, if the volume is good. And I see my brother's keepers in the house over there on Getter. Erica, first and always. Oh, am Erica first and always my brother's keeper. Welcome, brother. I'm glad you're back. You and TBB. TBB is definitely over there in the house. And Jackie, I see you over there on Rumble Land. Thank you, Jackie, for tuning in. Jackie said there's no hockey tonight, so she can check out the J Black Mamba tonight. And she's not working, so Jackie is definitely in the house tonight. I appreciate you, Jackie, just the way we like it. I have her undivided attention. I would thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll have some others come in tonight. We know it's closing out. It's Memorial Day weekend. People are camping. People are vacationing and all this other stuff. I'm on baby watch, to believe it or not. I'm on baby watch. My son and his girl can be having a baby at any moment now to make me a granddaddy, to make me papa. So we're on baby watch. We didn't go out and go on vacation this weekend because we're on baby watch for the next few days here, maybe to a week. We never know when that little rascal wants to pop out. But what I say, Memorial Day? I meant Labor Day. I don't know. I don't know what holiday it is. Shit. Labor Day. All right. So anyway, let me get this sponsor out of the way so we can get started because we're going to riff through this today. This part 3. And we are doing Supermassive Black Coffee today because they are our top sponsor. Louis, welcome. I see you, Susan. Susan, I see you. Susan's not on Turtle Watch right now, so she's in the Lion's Den tonight checking us out. So are you tired of the same
old corporate coffee, diluted and devoid of character. Well, it's time to break free from the chains of mediocrity with supermassive black coffee. Crafted from 100% organic beans, this coffee is fire roasted in a Victorian era roaster, a relic from an age when true craftsmanship thrived. This unique process allows the flames to caress each bean, unlocking bold, rich flavors with dark chocolate undertones and a smooth, smoky finish. In a time of soaring coffee prices and supply chain disruptions and tariffs and all this other stuff that's going on, Supermassive Black Coffee stands as a beacon of quality and resilience. While others compromise, this brand remains steadfast, delivering a brew that defies convention and invites coffee lovers to explore the depths of flavor and mystique. Join the rebellion against the mundane. Visit supermassiveblackcoffee.com and use code MAMBA, MAMBA, for 20% off your order. Embrace the conspiracy and sip the mystery. Sip the mystery. So, we're going to finish up strong. We're going to finish up strong and hard. And I thank y'all for hanging around for this 3-part series, because I think, and unless you understand, like I said, unless you understand what communism is and how communism flows, I'm gonna read some stuff after I get done, right before Ann comes on, because I think it's gonna tie in, and and it makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people say, why do black people always vote Democrat, right? Well, I'm explaining it to you now, man. I'm explaining it to you now, and I'm gonna tie it in, like I say, tonight, and you're gonna, and you should get it. And I hope there's a few more people watching tonight. So, and like I said, if you haven't seen part 1 and 2, you need to actually go back and check out parts 1 and 2. But part 3 is gonna hit you kind of strong tonight, and we're gonna do it because the communists and Negroes have been used, just like the transgenders are being used. Hey, you know what? Shout out right now to those kids who were shot up by in those families. It's something weird about that, though. I'm going to say that now. It's something very, very weird about that. And shout out and prayers to Rudy Giuliani, who was tagged in the back at full speed by a vehicle. He's in some bad shape, I heard. And if you think that was made by design, if you think that was an accident, then I think you may not be paying attention to what's going on and what's happening. Okay. All right. So, but shout out and prayers to Rudy Giuliani. But again, okay. So where it all started, the Communist Party USA. So we're gonna take us back a little bit, right? Again, I'm gonna bring you up to speed, take you back. We're gonna just finish it up tonight. We're gonna finish up strong, because, like I told you before, this just didn't happen overnight. Okay, where we are now, and I'm gonna read to you again some of the 45 goals that was written into the congressional record in 1963 of the Communist Party. And you tell me where we are in America. And if you're looking at everything, if you tie everything that I've been trying to tell you all these past 4 weeks, because it's been 3 parts, but it's been 4 weeks. I spent 2 weeks on part 2. If where exactly we are here in the United States, because the destruction of America, it didn't just start with Barack Obama. A lot of people, Barack Obama. It didn't start with Barack Obama. It didn't begin with Joe Biden. And it sure as hell didn't begin with Black Lives Matter. Even though Black Lives Matter is a communist group. And I'm going to play a clip. Where the founders of Black Lives Matter, well, one of the founders, Patrice Cullors, says that she's a trained Marxist. I'm going to play the clip for that. So it's Marxist. It's communist. They say it themselves. Okay, but it almost started a century ago with, like I say, the Communist Party USA, 1919, 1920 area. Okay, men like William, I'm going to name some names to bring you up to speed. Williams like William Z. Foster, Earl Browder. They openly bragged about how they would use racial tension. You had Trotsky, and Lenin, and as a wedge to destroy this nation from within, because they knew they couldn't beat us militarily, so they had to destroy it from within. But don't take my word for it. You go read the writings, okay? I'm just giving you the information. I'm leading you to the water. I can't make you drink. But you go read the writings, William Z. Foster, Earl Browder, those type people, Trotsky, okay? The CP USA's entire strategy was to radicalize Black Americans because we were the most suppressed. The thing now, right? What are they trying to do? They're trying to radicalize, which they're doing a pretty good job of it. You look at Minnesota and the governor, look at all those people, right? I mean, look at the mayor, right? They're trying to radicalize the transgender movement. Is it not the same? Because Black people are starting to wake up a little bit, right? Okay. And so now they're trying to use the transgenders for the uprising to radicalize them. Okay. And it's not because they care about Black people, not because they care about transgender, not because they wanted equality, because they really don't. I mean, because like I said last week, I mean, the Black communists couldn't even go to the white communists, the people that were handling them, running them homes. They didn't go out and eat dinner together. They didn't want equality, but they knew if they could weaponize race, and here's where we are. If they could weaponize race and now gender, because now they're weaponizing gender, right? It's not just race. Back then it was race because nobody ever would think, okay, well, that people are so mentally ill that they can believe that a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man, a boy a girl, and a girl a boy, right? Now, because they have these radicalized doctors, the radicalized medical industry, right? So now they knew that they could weaponize race, and now they know that they can weaponize gender. And so they can destabilize the entire American system. And it has worked. I mean, to a point. Not totally, but to a point, because this is where and they're playing for keeps. The Communist Party, that's one thing they do. They play for keeps, and they keep the pressure on. Okay? They keep the pressure on. So, they sent the operatives to the Black communities, because we're talking about communism and Negroes, right? They recruited leaders. They put Marxist theory behind the pulpit. We're talking because they went in, they captured the churches, they captured these ministers, these preachers in the Black churches, because this is where they went. They were behind the protests. They were behind the organizing committees. If you look at it, you had Dr. Martin Luther King, who was a minister. You had all these ministers, these uprisings that came out from the church, the Black churches. And they're still doing it today. I mean, you go to some Black church, you go to what's it, Jeremiah? No, not Jeremiah Wright, but it's the guy down in Atlanta. I mean, they preach all kind of stuff, man. You saw Fannie Willis down there begging, right? You have these Black churches, a lot of these Black churches still in the South, a lot, and they still are preaching the same stuff, right? I mean, you had Paul Robeson, that was paraded as a proud Black central figure, but at the same time, he was still praising Stalin. So how can you be a positive Black cultural figure in praising Stalin? But that's what they were taught, right? They were defending the Soviet Union, and they actually carried the water for communism. This is what they were doing. You got Angela Davis, and Angela Davis was not just some act. I believe she's still is it UCLA, right? Angela Davis is a professor, I believe, still at UCLA. This was a card-carrying communist, and I'm sure she still is. How is she a professor at a major university? A card-carrying communist, and I'm going to read to you how these communists have taken root in our education system, our pulpits, our government. And these people are later celebrated by the American left as a hero. The American left as a hero. I didn't say Black American left. I said American left as a hero. So this is the root. The communism didn't just march in waving a red flag and say, hey, we're here to take over, right? They snuck in under the banner of justice and civil rights, right? Jamal Bryant, Louis, man, Louis is be on it, man. Louis be on it. Jamal Bryant, yes, sir. Jamal Bryant, the church in Atlanta. Absolutely, man. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Louis is a beast, yo. Creflo Dollar, you have them guys down there. I mean, it's just unbelievable, man. I mean, even the senator from Atlanta, you got down there's a wife beater. He preaches the same thing, and he's a senator. He's a senator from Georgia. Louis, give me his name. I can't think right now. But he's the senator, Warnock. Warnock, that's his name. I beat you to it, Louis. I knew it. So Warnock is a senator of the state of Georgia. And he preaches the same type message. The same type message. You know, so they infiltrated the civil rights movement. So and look, if anyone's listening, you white liberals or black liberals or social justice warriors that are probably listening to the show, but they're not gonna say much because I call them out and invite them on the show, but they probably won't say much. You listen on X or I don't know, Facebook or YouTube, because I'm all over the place. And, my show is on live on YouTube, Pickaxe. I know they won't be on Pickaxe. That's too way too conservative for them. I know they're not on Getter, but anyway, but I don't want you guys to twist my words. Okay, I'm not saying that the civil rights movement itself was wrong, because we did have some issues, but we had some issues because of the communists that actually uprose and started the issues, right? But it wasn't wrong totally. But the movement, I'm sorry, it was infiltrated, it was corrupted, and it was hijacked. I've said that before. It was hijacked. Okay, I mean, look at Stanley Livingston. This guy was a devout communist, Stanley Livingston, and he was a key advisor to Martin Luther King Jr. He wrote most of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches, guys. Do you guys understand that? Did you guys know that? Mark Levinson wrote most of Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches. A white dude, a white guy. The FBI files now declassified years later. It proves it that the guy was a top level Communist Party USA member, and he was infiltrated right with a key advisor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I know some of you guys go, oh man, you're talking about MLK, man, Dr. Martin Luther King. Hey, I'm just telling you the truth. You go look it up yourself. I'm just telling you the truth. Like Carolyn say, if some young black people want a person to look up to as a role model, Ibrahim Traore. I like that dude. I definitely like that dude. Warlock. It's not Warlock, it's Warnock. Thank you, I appreciate you, TBB. TBB says Warlock. It's actually Warnock, I believe. But thank you, man. I knew what you were saying. I appreciate it over there. Give man helping a brother out. Helping a brother out. I appreciate it. I mean, and you're not gonna hear what I'm telling you guys. You're not gonna hear on any other podcast station. Let me know. I haven't had you guys come back and say, hey man, so and so. They're not gonna talk about it in the way that I talk about it, because they'll be called racist, and most of the people are scared to be called racist, but you're starting to hear, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's commie all the way now, right? You're going to start hearing a lot. And I told you guys, after this show, after this 3-part series is up and during, right? You're going to start hearing a lot more of these people start saying it's communist, calling these people communists, because guess what? Hey, Chief Bell said it was okay, so let's do it, right? That same thing about Israel. We're starting to call out shit that Israel is doing too. A lot more people are doing that now. They're not afraid to do that. It is what it is, right? So, Stanley Livingston, like I say, proved that the FBI files proved that he was a high-level communist. Okay, the CPUSA pumped money, propaganda, and organizational skills into the civil rights movement. They had a school, the Highland School, right? They had a school, MLK, Rosa Parks, all of them learned from, and they also went overseas. They also went overseas to Russia. They attached themselves to the cause, and is right there with Trotsky, right? The cause of Black Americans, but their end game wasn't freedom of the blacks. They didn't want the black people free. They actually just used them. They didn't care. Their end game was Marxism. Their end game was communism here taking over, really by any means necessary, of the United States. And we're so right here, right now, and I'm going to read it to you. But that's where COINTELPRO, because we talk about COINTELPRO is a big thing now with Tulsi Gabbard bringing it out. But like I explained to you before, the COINTELPRO that came in back in the day, okay, and let me be crystal. I some things I want to be crystal clear on. The COINTELPRO of the 60s that was with the HUAC, that I ran on bringing the HUAC back, not COINTELPRO because it's been weaponized, but it was designed in the 1960s. It was designed to stop foreign communism from taking root in America. I mean, but when we fast forward to today, the COINTELPRO that we live now is the German Stasi model. I said that last week. Okay, it's not protecting America. It's being weaponized against Americans. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, the COINTELPRO on the J6ers, right? They used COINTELPRO. I mean, they went back and they used, wiretap, and they used all of this stuff. They, tracked phones to see who was at J6. You didn't even have to go into the building, to the Capitol building. Were you at J6, right? They were using your phones, your tracking devices to see if you were there. I mean, so they're using this against patriots. They're using this against dissent. They're using it against you and me. Because any dissent, I want to put up a video. I don't think I downloaded, but there's a video of this guy saying that, hey, he's about to bring in a system to where Israel, an Israeli surveillance system, to where they're going to be tracking everything we say for real now. Because of they used this shooting, they've used this once again. They've used the MK Ultra dude, Patsy, whatever you want to call him, to go in and shoot up a school. Another trans. I think they're using these trans people as their MK Ultra assassins now. That's my belief. And so now, this guy goes back and shoots up a school, a Christian school, because Christians are under attack. And now this guy comes out saying this program is, you know what? I think I might have to download that because I want to show you guys that. Hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick, and I'm going to try to download it. And play it for you because it's really, really, I say scary because no one is stopping in it. And this isn't even government. This is a private dude, a private company, right? A private dude, private company that's saying this. Shoot, I don't know if I have it, but I'm sure somebody has it. But you know what? I know I have it. I have it on my phone. I'm gonna find it. I'm definitely gonna find it and show it to you because it's ridiculous. It's unbelievable. That they even are talking. They're saying this out loud. Okay, they're saying this out loud. Let me see if this is it. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna shoot this to myself real quick, right? And I'm gonna and I'm gonna play this right now because this is what COINTELPRO is right now. Okay, it's weaponized. It's not the government, but they are allowing these, and they're getting government contracts to do this, right? Okay, I'm gonna send this to myself real quick, and I'm gonna play this before I move on, but I gotta download it first. So, but oh yeah, trolls are always watching this. Trolls are always watching. And if you guys don't know, guys, is just tuning in. I produce my own show, so I pull my own emails, I download, and it's live, and I do what I do, right? But I'm my own producer. I produce my own show, produce my own videos. So everything that I do is me. Everything that I do is me. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. You guys see how fast I do that? Boom, boom. I'm actually pretty damn good at what I do, huh? All right, so I'm going to play this real
Correct.
quick.
I am now about to launch Gideon, America's first ever AI threat detection platform built specifically.
I'm going to say this, and listen to what he says. Listen closely to what the fuck he says, because, it's certain people running this country, and it's not our government. Our government is compromised. Our government has been hijacked. We are an occupied country. But listen at this guy. This guy should be arrested because he's already saying this is like the Minority Report of, when did that movie come out? 1999 or whatever? Minority Report with Tom Cruise. These are hate crimes. These are predetermined hate crimes, predetermined, crimes, right? So this guy is saying what he's going to do. And I think he needs to get sued. He needs to get right away because he's already saying he's violating your constitutional rights. But let's listen to this real quick. Shit. Come on, man. Let me turn it on.
Threat language and then routes it to local law enforcement.
Okay, hold on. I'm starting over. All right, there you go.
Correct. I am now about to launch Gideon, America's first ever AI threat detection platform built specifically for law enforcement. It scrapes the internet 24/7 using an Israeli-grade ontology to pull specific threat language and then routes it to local law enforcement. It's a 24/7 detective. It never sleeps, and it's going to get us in front of these attacks.
Would it have picked up on this, do you think?
100%. I wish my program would already be up. We're not launching until next week. I've got a dozen agencies on board, Trace. I just unloaded a major Northeast agency with over 2,700 sworn. This is America's early warning system.
This is America's surveillance system with Israeli technology. With Israeli technology. If you don't think this is a threat, if you don't think this is real, if you don't think that this is bad, then something is definitely wrong with you. Something is definitely wrong with you. 24/7 surveillance of your words. AI. And this is why I'm totally against it. People say, oh, you're not MAGA because you're against Trump. I am so against Trump turning over all of our data to Palantir and Peter Thiel, the pedo, and these people, and turning over all to AI and boasting AI. Look at this guy. This guy even said AI is going to be what? Do you guys have a problem with that? You guys see the magnitude of that? Pre-crime. Minority Report. You guys thought Minority Report was a movie, right? You guys thought that, right? Tell you, every movie is true. Every movie is true. They just have a little bit of fiction in it to make it not true, right? Every movie has its own truth to it. And Minority Report is now 2025. This guy just said it. They're going to be hitting you with pre-crime. Okay, let me continue. Shit, let me get through this so I can bring Ann on. But I had to say that, man, because we live in a weaponized. It's weaponized against us. And thank you to the Patriot Act. They need to let them, and every congressman that you put in office that continue to vote for the Patriot Act must be taken out of office and new person, and so they can allow this Patriot Act to sunset, because that's where it all began. And all began 9/11. So anyway, okay, so let's talk about, all right, so then came the Lyndon Baines Johnson after the coup of the United States with the murder of JFK, with the assassination of JFK. That was the coup. That was the coup of the United States. Why? Because he was pushing Israel to have AIPAC register as a foreign agent, and he was pushing Israel to allow inspections on their nuclear weapons programs that they stole from the United States. Our top ally, our number one ally, our best friend stole our nuclear secrets for their own. So, and won't let us come inspect them and won't register AIPAC as a foreign agent. And they sink our ships or try to sink our ships, USS Liberty, and attack our buildings, 9/11. Whew. All right, I'm getting off track, man. Let me stop. So if there's a man who sold Black America, let's just say this, into permanent bondage, because we are talking about communism and Negroes, under the Democrats, it was LBJ. And you heard the quote, and it's real. You know, people, oh, he didn't say, yeah, it's real. It's on tape. It's video. It's on audio. Okay. When he was pushing the so-called Great Society, and he said flat out, I'll have black people. And he didn't say black people. He didn't say black people. What he said was niggers, right? He said niggers, right? He said it. So he said, I'll have niggas voting Democrat for 200 years, and so far he's been right. And it wasn't a slip of a tongue. It was not. LBJ was one of the biggest racists, and the only reason he signed the 1965 Voter Rights Act or whatever, I mean, because he had to after JFK was killed, Martin Luther King pressed him. He had to reel in black people. He had to get black people on his side. So what better way to say, oh, I really care about black people. Let me sign this Voter Rights Act or this, Civil Rights Act in the law. But that wasn't a joke, though. Okay, that was definitely the plan. That was always the plan, and the plan worked. It worked. Now you talk about, well, why do black people always, right? You say, well, black people are smarter than that. When you've been brainwashed, when you've been accustomed, when you've been brought up in a way that becomes generational brainwashing, that becomes generational voting, that becomes generational poverty. The Great Society, it was not about lifting black families out of poverty. It was not. Well, I say we black people as a whole did better before the 70s. Before the 70s, right? So it wasn't about lifting black families out of poverty. It was about communism and communists using black people. It was about locking them into generational dependency. I mean, when you look at the BLM, they talk about the breakdown of the nuclear family. Their whole goal was the breakup of the black nuclear family, right? They wanted them dependent on government handouts. You guys talk about, well, why is this? Why do black people? It's generational dependency, generational brainwashing. It's about replacing the father with the state. They talk about, why are so many mothers? It's about that. They gave up welfare and the father couldn't be in the home. It was about destroying the black nuclear family. It's about a strategy. They had a strategy that ripped directly from the communist playbook. That's what it was. It was communist. This is why I had to do this series, Communism and Negroes, because it's the playbook. The breakdown of the family, make people dependent, strip away their dignity, and you own them. This is what slavery did. Now, this is a mental, it wasn't whips and chains slavery, it was mental slavery. It was and you see the people, you see these black social justice warriors, you see these black overseers, you see these white liberal overseers, these communists still preaching the same thing to black people still to this day because they feel that they own them. And LBJ didn't free Black America at all. Black America became worse under LBJ. He put them on a plantation with new masters in D.C. Put them on a plantation with new masters in Washington, D.C. A welfare check instead of a whip. Food stamps instead of chains. EBT cards. Dependency instead of freedom. This is why we talk about, us black conservatives talk about getting black people off the Democrat plantation, because this was the Democrat Party that has been running the scam ever since. The same party, the Democrat Party, that has been running this scam on black people and black America. And people can say, "Oh, well, you talking well, white people." I'm not talking about white people right now. I'm talking about communists and Negroes. Okay, so y'all just calm the fuck down, calm down, because we want our white neighborhood safe. Yeah, I know, but we're talking about black people. We're talking about communism. So you don't have to ask, why do black people always? And it's hard to break mentality that you've known your whole life. It's brainwashing, it's conditioning. And most of us at some point in our life over something have probably been a little brainwashed and conditioned, because I tell you this right now, there's a lot of Republicans that's brainwashed right now. There's a lot of MAGA Republicans that's brainwashed right now. So it's not just the black people and Democrats. I'll leave that for another day, because I get attacked all the time by the MAGA cult, right? The same people that talk about, well, why do black people always, or why do y'all always, why do, some of the Republicans just vote Republican because they have the R. Ooh, I know I just hit somebody with that. I threw that rock out there. Somebody just got hit. I mean, but we talk about, so we go from LBJ. So after LBJ, right? It was a parade. I mean, and you look at it, it's just weak, corrupt Democrats. I say Democrats, but Democrats, just keeping this rot, keeping this fester alive. These communists, they were all communists. Think about it. If you use the communist playbook, what are you? You're communist. You're a communist. Jimmy Carter. He's probably one of the worst Democrat presidents ever. He gave us weakness worldwide abroad. I mean, he emboldened our enemies. Jimmy Carter was the weakest and gave us some of the highest interest rates and gas prices of ever, right? I remember long lines. I was young in the 70s when Jimmy Carter was president or whatever. Long gas lines, interest rates, 18%? So, I mean, he laid the groundwork for really the Soviet expansion coming back. People want to say Islamic terror. You can say that too. I mean, we did have some hostages, but I think that was more of a setup to get Reagan in the office. But yeah, that's another story too. I mean, Bill Clinton, he sold America's manufacturing. He sold out to China. This is when jobs started leaving China. Bill Clinton sold America's manufacturing out to China, and this is where we really started to embrace globalism, right? The working class got those of you that are old enough to remember this. This is when the working class started to get gutted, and he lined his pockets with Beijing cash, and China just laughed all the way to the bank. I mean, so every one of these so-called leaders from that point, we go from Carter to Clinton, LBJ, Carter to Clinton, they advanced the communist agenda. Whether by incompetence, as I think Jimmy Carter was, or by outright design, like Bill Clinton. Carolyn in the chat says, they're claiming it's all new. How many times have you said something on your phone or Facebook that crap will pop up in your ads all day on social media? Your smart TV, Siri, all that shit is in on. Well, I don't even have Siri on my phone. And since I don't have Siri on, I turned Siri off on my phone. I don't get those ads anymore. Siri was a motherfucker. Siri was a spy, yo. I turned Siri off. I don't get the ads anymore. I don't get the ads. But yeah, man. I mean, that's it. And I'm sorry if I'm not hitting the chat a lot tonight yet because I'm trying to get Ann prepared to get in here, So, but I'm gonna hit the chat. But I got some things to do though, so I'm gonna keep it moving. Okay, so we get to Barack Obama, right? So now, the smiling face of Marxism, right? The hope and change guy, right? This is the guy, right? Because black people really started to get riled up because that was like right after, the Bush era, right? The Bush era. Black people, the communists, they started really rising up. Black people, again, black people were not falling in line. Black people were not, happy right around, the time Obama came. So what do, they bring in a black communist to shut the black people up. The left and the communists saw him as what? Change, the great healer, hope and change, this guy, White people even bought in on it, man. There's a bunch of white people voted for Barack Obama because they felt guilty. It was time for a black president. They helped usher in the biggest communist of them all, the biggest Marxist of them all. And some of you out there probably voted for Barack Obama. I didn't, glad to say, but some of you voted for Barack Obama. Pat yourself on the back. You helped usher in Marxism and communism full-fledged here into the United States under his smiling face. And it's okay. You didn't know. I just hit some more people. Man, I'm hitting people tonight. God damn. But under Obama, we saw a rise in this weaponized, right, identity politics, right? This is where we saw Obamacare, the massive government takeover that was dressed up as healthcare. This is all communist. We saw the IRS that was used to target conservatives. We saw the birth of Black Lives Matter, right? Led by a self-declared Marxist, Patrice Cullors. I'm going to play this clip. Self-prescribed Marxist, okay? So I need to share my screen on this. And so I'm going to play this. And self-proclaimed founder of Black Lives Matter. Here we go.
I also think that it might... I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories. And I think that what we really try to do is build a movement that could be utilized by many, many Black folks.
We are trained Marxists utilizing a movement that can be utilized by many, many Black folk. Trained Marxists, trained communism, trained. It's there. It's right there in your face. She said it. They said it, right? So out of her own mouth. Programs that Black people can use. This is communism. Negroes and communism. Are you seeing it yet? Do you believe me now? All right. So, and let me tell you something personal, really. As a Black man, and you see a lot more Black people now say it because it used to be taboo not to say because your friends used to talk about you. They used to call you names and this and that, right? I never gave a shit. I've always said it, right? And I can say it plain and loud, right? Obama did nothing for Black people. Did nothing for Black America. He used us. Well, not us, but he used us as a people, right? He did nothing. He used his skin color as a shield, right? To push policies that truly divided this country and that really dragged us closer to socialism or communism. And white people were scared to say anything because they didn't want to be called racist because that was the first time we had a Black president. Did you see how they used Barack Obama against America, against the people of America? Do you see how they used him against you, against me, against America to usher in this communism? Black employment stayed sky high. Black wealth didn't increase any. The ghettos didn't get rebuilt. But you know what did get stronger? The communist foothold in America. That's what got stronger here in America under Barack Obama. Nothing got better. You go and look at any black neighborhood. Go back and look at it. What got better in black neighborhoods? What got better in black communities under Barack Obama? And since then, not a damn thing. So I don't want to hear about this. Oh, Barack Obama, you can't talk about. Well, I can, and I'm not scared to. Right? And then you had this puppet come in, right? Because you had Joe Biden. So you had all these people, right? I mean, it was just one after other. Yeah, we had a little break with Trump 2016, but they sort of caged him in because why? Because we had these Republicans, right? We had these Republican communists. We have Republican communists too that didn't want him to do anything. So they boxed him in, right? I mean, because we had the Senate, the House, and the presidency for 2 years. We could have got a bunch of things done, but we didn't because you had the Paul Ryans, you had the all of those type people, right? And you had all of these snakes around him, and and then the Democrats, they were pushing to 2 impeachments in the Senate. They didn't push his agenda, so so this wasn't liberalism, right? With Biden, by the time Biden rolled in, the mask was off, right? Because we didn't do anything Trump's first term, right? And then we gave up the House in 2018, so they kept rolling, right? So this wasn't progressivism. This was full-blown communism wearing an American flag as disguise under Joe Biden. If you just look at it, it was ushered in under Joe Biden. It was full-fledged communism from 2021 to 2025. And Ann's in the back room, so I'm hammering through this so I can get her on. But from 2021 to 2025, Biden ran the most destructive presidency in American history. Even worse than Jimmy Carter, right? He opened borders, flooding in this nation with illegal immigrants. And this is with these illegal aliens. I don't even want to call them illegal immigrants, migrants. They're illegal aliens. They're criminals. And this was in order, in fact, and I said it on a show back when I had Naomi Wolf on, and people are starting to say it now. I said it back in March 2025. They were bringing these people in. They were putting these people in these certain states in order to do the census to gain more seats in Congress to take over America. That's what this was about. And now you see people trying to fight it. Now you see people, okay, down in Texas, well, they need to, gerrymander or whatever. They need to redo seats in California stuff. This is all about seats in Congress to see who's going to run America, who's going to take over America, because we are a representative republic. I think we still, that's what we call ourselves, but you're going to see we're not. Truthfully, look at your representatives. Do your representatives, and are your representatives representing you? Ask yourself that question. We had inflation that just crushed working families. They want to blame COVID, but if we were out of COVID, we had censorship that turned big tech to the thought police. I just played you an ad. They got AI that's going to be watching us now, right? Big tech, a weaponized DOJ and FBI that were targeting parents, and Ann can contest to this, targeting parents, patriots, and Christians and conservatives, or anyone who stood in the way of, at these school board meetings, city hall meetings. Biden was not a leader. Biden's been in Congress, and he's been in for 50 years. What has he done? What has Joe Biden done besides the 1994 crime bill? What has he done? 50 years. He was a puppet. He was a vessel. And now you have all these people that was around him writing these books. John Clappier, you had, all these people, you're like, oh, they're writing books now saying how bad Biden was. How come these people aren't in jail? How come these people aren't being held accountable for saying that this guy was able to be president? All of these people now, so now you're telling the truth? He was a vessel for global and communist interests. It grew even more under Joe Biden, and especially China. Why are we doing business with communist China? Why is a non-communist country doing business with a communist country, making them stronger? Why? Biden didn't govern for America. Obama didn't govern for America. They governed for the party, for the elites, for the enemies of this nation. Make no mistake, these elites are the enemies of this nation. Okay, here we are, and I'm gonna wrap this up in 5 minutes. I'm gonna bring Ann in. And here we are. Trump is back in the White House, and I'm not agreeing with everything Trump is doing. I don't know if he's been compromised. I don't know if he's been kidnapped. I don't know. And people are coming. I'm like, man, why are you so hard on Trump? Because he's not doing what he said he was going to do. He has gatekeepers up here still protecting the elite. He turned over everything, all of us, over to Palantir, to Peter Thiel, who's a pedo. Are you kidding me? But don't get it twisted, all right? And this fight is far from over. It's far from over because the Democrat Party didn't just go left. They didn't just lose their way. They just became the Communist Party of America and still using black people just like communists have always done. So this is never about justice. This was never about helping black people ever. It was always about control. If you talk, if you listen, if you hear them, it was always about control. It was always about communism. From the CPUSA of the 1930s to LBJ's Great Society, to Obama's smiling Marxism communist, to Biden's puppet regime. It's all one straight line. It's all one straight line. It's all right there. The Democrats, they don't want freedom. They want prosperity. Look at them. They want faith. They don't want faith. They don't want family. They don't care about country. All they care about is power. Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, AOC, the squad. Listen at them talk. They even tried to give you a fake Indian Kamala Harris. They just want power. They just want control. And they will continue if we let them. If we let them, they will continue to use race, welfare, right? Censorship, all the chaos that they can muster up. Sex. But now in 2025, the mask is off. You see it. I hope you see it clearly. And I think the question is, do you? Do you see it? I see it as plain as day. The question is, do we Americans have the courage, the spine to step up and, hey, let's bring the HUAC back. But we need to crush this cancer before it drags us all into hell with it. And it's pretty close because make no mistake, this is the definite fight of our lives. I mean, when you talk about the current communist goals, you talk about free trade between, this is number 4, read into the congressional record, free trade between all nations, regardless of communist affiliation and regardless of whether or not items could be used for war. We're talking about weaponry. Right? Provide American aid to all nations, regardless of communist domination. Grant recognition of Red China to the UN. I mean, this is, resist any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party. Why? Because they got rid of the HUAC. Why would you get rid of the HUAC? Congress? Why would you get rid of that? Because it was going to outlaw the Communist Party. And they had to resist the attempt to outlaw the Communist Party. Right? Capture one or both of the political parties in the United States. Where are we? Where are we? The Democrat Party has already been captured. Use technical decisions to the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil rights. Get control of the schools. Ann's going to talk about this. Here we are. Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism or current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of the teachers' associations. put the party line in textbooks, get control of all student newspapers, use student riots to foment public protests against programs or organizations which are under communist attack. So, where are we? Where are we? And welcome back to the Lion's Den. And where are we? Where are we, sweetie? Are we a communist nation? Are we a communist nation?
100%. Can you hear me? We good?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Good.
We are, and this is all I can say, is that we are 100%, and it is such a burden every day to carry this and be talking to not just fighting one party, fighting two parties who are adopting in legislation, whether at the federal or the state level, but especially at the state level, being the most hated conservative woman for telling Republicans that what they are doing is either socialist, communist with the documented proof.
Hey, and I know I stop banging your desk.
Okay.
Stop banging your desk because we hear it. I know you're fired up, but it's like boo, 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 boo. All right, go ahead, continue.
But it is, I mean, it's like people are like, oh, we're approaching it. No, we're in it. And when I speak education, is that, and I'll show you the documentation of the plan in a second, and then exactly what they were telling you. And is that what's so frustrating is that I'm a professional researcher. I'm not a hacker, but I can find anything. This stuff is readily available. Archive, is that you can go. I sit at night and go through, and I'm like, I'm blown away by the archive stuff. Is that, and then on the other end, go to CPUSA. It's either .com or .org. They're pissed that the media has also made the world believe that they're gone. And it's shocking. And then you have Marxist.org that have documented that we both have valid points about the media, is that the world wants everybody to believe that they're gone while they're still functioning. And so you have to look at it at the greatest picture. And people are like, well, maybe that's a front organization to no, this is straight up the communists. Like, they even have a quiz section. You can go through and take quizzes, and they'll tell you everything. And that, I mean, is that and you'll read is that they believe that they've been censored by the media too to make the world believe that they were gone. Mm-hmm. But dealing in education is that, and this is what really got me thinking is, and this goes back to America has to stop believing that prior to 100 years ago, people were dumb, children were not learning anything. It's this mindset of, it's generational, is that we have 4,000 years of human history. We have founding fathers who created a nation. Like, we went around the globe in wood boats. Like, we were a nation founded on written word and correspondence that children could not read today, much less write in the same writing as our forefathers. But you want to tell me that government
not even close. Are you kidding? The language and the writing style of our forefathers, that's nowhere to be found in our education system.
I mean, people have to look
for years,
right? But people have this mindset, and it's because nobody has questioned it. But when you start to question it, like, wow, we are a blip on the radar. There was no government sanctioned compulsory education before us, like Russia, Prussian system. They had started it. But since everybody looks to the US and always has, because we want to be the global dominator, everything that's been infested in education around the globe, I read articles from India, like people that agree with me that are being shut down in their own countries, is that we are the few and far between, but there is still a lot of intellectual people who see what this is. But is that we are the virus that is spread across the globe, and we have to accept that. And therefore, the only way to stop it is that we have to stop it.
What do you mean by we're the virus?
Well, everybody looks to us. What is America doing? You know, what is the U.S. doing? Well, they're the global dominators, so we must do what they're doing. Is that all these countries that used to educate their own children in their own nationality to what they wanted their children to learn, who, you know, is that we all have this, oh, the whole world was a third world country before compulsory education, is completely false. It is completely and utterly false. Look at Eastern civilization and everything that they accomplished. Is that we have been less than 250 years has been this nation, and the damage that we have done by allowing our hubris and not listening to how much we were warned, is that I have articles from the 40s, 50s, educators, like typewriter articles from teachers who were saying the Jewish Marxists, the Jewish Bolsheviks are coming over, which they did, like Herbert Marcuse, all of them, the Frankfurt, like everybody that is currently the model of education being pushed now across the entire nation is 100% is Marxist. Whether you're talking about John Dewey or all these behaviorists or humanists, is that they were 100% most of them either from Germany or Russia or trained over there. And so it's a virus because people look to us because we were supposed to be the American experiment and this great thing but nobody ever got past us enforcing anything that our founding fathers said that we were going to do. Like, I look at everything today and I'm like, no, that's not freedom. And that's what I wanted to talk about, is that the essential part of compulsory education, and I don't know what else to do to explain this to parents. In the freest nation in the world, do you actually believe that you have to send your children to the government? Stop saying public schools, because what is the public? You're either an individual in this country, or what is the public? So you either have an individual or the government. And so you're sending them to the government daily. You believe in the freest nation in the world, you have to do that. And then you have no say in what they learn. And then you can't get in the building. They're going to tell you what your child has to learn for the greater good. It's like when I started to fully process, and I just hit my 4-year mark of waking up. And it's like of going to my first school board meeting. But it's like once you start to see and you start to hear what people say, and I'm like, do you actually believe you're free? Well, yeah, I'm free. No, you don't act free. Is that being free is like a burden to people, I feel like now, especially parents, is that they have
to ask the governor, or the governor has to pass some type of legislation that says the parent has the right to. What the fuck you mean? Wait a minute. What, the governor giving you permission about what you as a parent can do with your kid and what you can say, whether or not your kid has to learn this garbage that they're trying to push on your kid, or your kid has to. I mean, I'm like, what? I listen. I'm like, what? And these people applaud that. Oh, the governor said. I'm like, you're fucking seals. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? The governor has nothing. Has no. You're the parent.
Pull this screen up. I think you have to approve it. But speaking of governors, is like, so here, explaining to people, they're like, the governor has just, and I'm like, wait a minute. So now that you're applauding the governor, Youngkin calls for increased state spending on child care, and it's called Thrive Birth to 5. And I'm like, wait a minute. Education is free. Freedom of education shall be enjoyed under the condition fixed by law and under the supreme control of the state. Right here, the education of all children from the moment they can get along without a mother's care shall be at the state institutions and state expense. It's usually Marx, but it was actually Engels in the Principles of Communism. So I'm like, wait, so as soon as they can get along without a mother's care, which means off of the teat, but then it's like, what is this?
Birth to 5.
Right? What is the difference? And people look at me like, you're a bad Republican. Okay, great. Awesome. I'll sleep good tonight. Thank you. All
right. So I know you've been watching the series, and keep that up there, because this drives home the point that not only and I've warned people about Youngkin when he first came. I was probably the #1 critic of Youngkin. Like,
what did I say
no.
to you that they said the 2028 president is going to be the something about shooting hoops, and I was like,
yeah, the shooting hoops. Yeah, that guy. That's my guy.
I'm calling it him right there.
But okay, I went through how the communists, right, on the Democrat side, using the same playbook and the same language, AOC, the squad, using the same language of the Communist Party USA people that they were using in the 1990s, 1920s. And here you are, a Republican. And I told people they're communists on the Republican side, and there has to be us. This wouldn't work. There has to be communists on the Republican side as well. I say communism and Negroes because that's who was being used. But now bring it full circle, right? Communism and the capture of the two parties. Now you have a Republican governor using the same words, the same playbook, different words, different face as what you just put up with Karl Marx in communism.
Yeah. I mean, is that people know this? Is that
who just fell out of their seat? Who did we just knock out of their damn seat when we just who come on, put your hand up. Who just got knocked out of their seat? And that shit just hit you right over your head so hard, and you're like, damn.
And if people are like, well, and you worked hard. I did work hard too, and that's why it burned the second I figured out who. And am I the only parent that realized they didn't matter? That's mattered in hell and is going to do something about it? Apparently, I am in the state of Virginia. Is that people know exactly what I know, and that's why I tell people, they're like, well, what was the other choice, McAuliffe? Hell yes, because here's the thing: they would have done the same thing, but we would have still known it was bad.
Right. And we would have fought against it.
And we would have still been
fighting.
And
we would have still been fighting.
And that's what happens when you start co-signing socialist, Marxist, communist shit because of a governor who wears a red vest. You can't wash that off. The party will never be able to shed what this man has done. We will never be able to back up and say, hold up. Like, you think if Winsome wins, she's going to back up and go, hold up, everything that he just did, we're going to erase all that. No, they're going to charge ahead because they can't admit they were wrong. Or they can't admit that he bought them off, paid them off, which he did. And that's the problem. And people say, why are you? Because I want a free country for my children to still live in, my grandchildren. That is what is at stake, not if a party likes me or not. But it's like, I showed them this, and then they get mad at me. And I'm like, okay, you want to see where the same week Tim Kaine up in the Senate was saying the same thing as the Republican governor? And they're like, oh. And they get mad at me. And I'm like, make it make sense. Make it make sense. Well, and they can't. They're like, R good, D bad. It's even in, if you look at the Communist Manifesto, number 10. I think you got to agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up.
Yeah. Okay, so the Communist Manifesto, I would got a lot to go through, but people talk about it, read it. Okay. Heavy progressive graduated income tax, abolition of all rights of inheritance. Have you ever thought about the inheritance tax? That's the inheritance tax. Your family dies and leaves you money. You have to pay. I mean, some people can't even afford it, the inheritance tax. But think about that. But number 10, free education for all children in public schools, abolition of children's factory labor, which people thought was to save children. No, it wasn't. With a combination of education with industrial production.
Stop right there. Let me read this real quick. And you know, and I didn't know you were gonna put that up, right? I was gonna read this later, but when we talk about this, okay, I'm gonna read this. This is from Manning Johnson's book, right? I've been referencing this book as far as because he infiltrated the Communist Party. So I'm going to read this real quick. So all other racial national groups have their respective organizations, right? They have all that stuff, right? It says, but, fundamentally, they know a number of Negroes developed skills during the war, right? Okay, because this is about what you're talking about, the factory labor, right? Okay, they desire progress through the medium of education, reliability, know-how, and productivity, also essential in the competitive society. So the Negro intellectuals, they try to convince them that that learning a labor skill is discrimination
Mhm.
when you learning a skill. So that okay,
That's
they know that a number of Negroes developed skills during the war, but that the great majority are not highly skilled or trained to fit into industry during that atomic age. This is back in 1959 that this book was written. But thanks to W.E.B. Du Bois, who was a overseer in my book, and Monroe Trotter for their toil to defeat the industrial training program of Booker T. Washington, because Booker T. Washington's philosophy of education was to prepare the majority of Negroes through vocational training to play a
Booker.
vital role in the rapidly developing American economy before and after the turn of the century. And now, right now, this was for Black Americans, right? Not
Yes.
only for white, and now you just plopped up that they don't even want white America to do that.
See, the thing is that so I grew
Because
up
this is communism.
good. W.E.B. What I knew growing up is that but W.E.B. Du Bois, like bad, Booker T. Washington. But then I read a book about Booker T. Who was the most progressive? Booker T. Who got there first? Booker T. Washington or John Dewey? So when you're compare, and I was like, what is this? And it completely blew my mind that I had all that wrong. But this document right here, you can look that you don't have to you don't have to argue. You type in 100 things you should know about communism. This is from Committee on Un-American Activities, 1949. When you go to education, number 5, if communism should conquer America, what would happen to the schools? Real education would stop. Only training would be allowed. So every time I hear workforce, I have a video from the Parents Matter when he was down in Virginia Beach, where under his breath, they were talking about requiring a skill to graduate high school. Not if you can read or write, but a requirement. And people were like, oh, well, all kids need skills. Okay, here's the thing that people get really twisted on. We're not talking about after you graduate with a full education, then offer scholarships to go to a trade school when you have a foundation of knowledge. That's a great thing. Starting to gather children's competencies in kindergarten to then direct them into the workforce that the state deems they are going to be needed for and their competencies most are going to allow them to be, is the most dystopian reality people refuse to look at, is that your children's free will is being removed from them. They will never know what they could have been because the state takes all their competencies in this data and they go, oh, well, this child is best going to be made as a widget. They're going to be they're a button pusher. Is that they're predetermining. That's why all this personalized learning these kids are getting in computers is that they're all getting different education and it's pointing them in directions that they didn't know that and then you lose all sense of whatever you thought your reality is gone because they've driven it for you and you didn't know that you were getting different education than the kid sitting next to you. But this is the one I always show people is I'm like workforce. The point of education is to get a job. And people are like, yeah, no, it's not.
No, it's not. It's just to be
able to build a life. The job is like the outcome of free will and having a full set of like arithmetic and reading. Like that's the point of education. It's not to get a job. And that's where people that's where they get stuck at. But when you have two parties agreeing on this is when people really get stuck. but they don't, because they don't participate in their own government, they don't understand that 90% of education legislation is bipartisan, most of the time unanimous. They just are told what the news tells them, which is like 10%, which is like the outlier cultural stuff. You hit the homeschools parents, you hit the, CRT or the porn books, you get like the outliers, but the majority of education legislation is bipartisan unanimous. I mean, mostly because the Republicans are either feckless, corrupt, or there's only like three choices, and they're not stupid. I mean, so they're either a part of the problem or they're just going along with it because they want to keep their seats.
Well, we all know that that's what it's about. It's not about keeping seats. It's not about representing your constituents. It's not about protecting your constituents' kids from predators or from the communists and things like that. So here's what I want to do really, really quick, because we're talking about education. We're talking about how dumbed down the education has become because it's communist, right? Because you've proven it right there, because it's about what? Training for the workforce, right? It's about training. So I'm gonna I just put up a test, an exit exam, right? From just for shits and giggles, and I'm gonna let you continue, from 1912, right? This is literally.
I have one, I think, from 1956, and it's this long. Nobody would be able to.
No, I know. So I just put this. This is 8th grade examination for Bullitt County Schools. This is in Kentucky for 1912 spelling. Okay, so this is an 8th grade test. So those are the words you got: exaggerate, incentive, conscious, pennyweight. Okay, may be able to do that. Monotony, autumn, musician, stuff like that, right? So we got on the reading. So the reading and writing is given to the teacher. So this is the arithmetic exam, right? Find cost at 12.5 cents per square yard of calcium mining. The walls of a room 20 feet long, 16 feet wide, 9 feet high, deducting. Now, this is one question. Deducting
8th grade,
the donor, 8th grade, 8 foot by 4 foot, 6 inches, and 2 windows, 5 foot by 3 foot, 6 inches each. That was one question.
Mm-hmm.
That was one question. Solve, 35 minus 7 plus 4, 5.8, 5 minus 8 plus, I can't even read that writing. I mean, I don't know if it's 35 minus 7 plus 4, 5 minus 8 plus 5 minus 14 minus 59 times 112. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, most adults couldn't even have passed this today, right? A man bought a farm for $2,400 and sold it for $2,700. What percent did he gain? This is 8th grade. What percent? Not how much he made, but what percent did he make? A man sold a watch for $180 and lost 16 2/3. What was the cost of the watch? This is 8th grade. This is how they don't teach you to think anymore. They don't teach you to think anymore. This is, it's like, that was 8th grade.
Yeah, when you get down like civil government and history, which is really important, because part of this whole thing with Lenin. So in 1928, he had the Comintern, which would be Communism International.
Right, and I spoke about that. Yep, the Comintern. Yeah. That was,
so you can look it up.
Black people, they use Negroes to put this into effect. Right?
They literally will tell you is that you can look up anti-racism Lenin, is that the whole idea of white people have to become allies to what is that it is all anti-capitalist is that they were going to use, they called it the Negro problem and then the Negro solution. Okay. Is that you had all of these Negroes in America who were free and happy now. Look up 1930 African-American or families. Is that they were completely happy. Well, there was a problem to Lenin and them. And so they called it the Negro problem. And so they started flying people over and I have pictures of W.E. Du Bois with like Mao and with Khrushchev and all these people.
Yeah, they met a lot of these so-called black leaders that was part of the Communist Party. They went over to
Claude McKay was a big
Moscow.
one. Claude McKay is probably the one that you can look up and read most extensively. Well, he will tell you exactly how he sold his own people out. He went over there and had these conversations and was like, yeah, I'll go do it. And go infiltrate these organizations. And how we're going to infiltrate the churches. Like, is that
right? Yeah, that was one of the big things we covered as well. Infiltrate the churches. And that's something that they started doing, like I said, in the 1950s and 60s with Dr. Martin Luther King. This is where they really started to, take root into these black churches. And that's why I say, a lot of these, you have the Warnocks, you have the dude that the Jamal Bryants of the world, you have, all these black pastors, the Jeremiah Wrights that Barack Obama sat in his pews for years. These people are communists.
Yeah.
These people are communists. And like I say, it started from Lenin. But go ahead, continue. I'm going to let you riff. Go.
But so you can look up George Counts was the one who went over. He was part of the NEA, guys, which has been around since the late 1800s, okay, the National Education Association, as they went over to Russia, and he was part of that organization with John Dewey and all them, and they looked at everything, and they brought it back here. So to think and saying that Becky Pringle or Weingarten, it's okay. And we have to get okay with saying, even to Republicans, you're voting for Marxism, you're voting for communism. It's because stop saying race Marxism and saying this is communism. Is one, you have to start calling it what it is, because as long as we use these like socially acceptable terms and not exactly what it is, then we're never going to get past this. Because once you call a Republican a communist in public, because I've had 5 or 6 delegates tell me that when they vote, they think about me because they know I'm going to call it good. If more people called out their elected duty-bearing civil servants for voting for something that's not remotely conservative, that you might have more people that thought twice before they voted. But so they decided that having separate, going back to that report card, having separate civics, government, history, all these separate classes that taught separate, and smushing them all together. And you can look it up. Like, is that Virginia, where I still am, and you used to be, boo. You can look it up, like the Virginia Social Studies, like review board. And there's all these articles from the 1950s where Virginia was arguing about the socialism that was coming in. Well, what was our last? The one where I sent you where I turned around and scolded the ACLU. It's called, when you have social and anything, just add ism. Like, is that socialism studies? It's really anytime.
Are we learning critical thinking, top-down learning, teaching critical thinking in kindergarten, and then teaching the facts at the bottom is the reason why. And I am ashamed of everybody who came up here enraged at the history standards, and nobody mentioned that yet again, Virginia is the last in the nation in reading and in math, especially for the historically marginalized that you all come up here saying that you represent and speak for. Not one single person brought up the fact that we are 50th again in the nation. Our children cannot read, our children cannot write, and our children do not know how to do math. And yet everybody up here that's so enraged and so proud of where they came from, not one of you mentioned those children. That's embarrassing, and I am proud that I am not a member of either political party. I would rather be on the moon than be a part of this bipartisan swamp.
There you go.
But that was after I was 88th. This is when they were reviewing the socials, the whitewashed. They actually got the quote right, because the beginning of that was, y'all missed the mark. This is socialism 101. And when the news actually makes the caption correct, it's like, it makes you think. I was like, this is socialism 101. But I listened to the ACLU, I listened to the Sikhs, I listened to everybody talk about how they didn't get represented. And this was the same week that we had reported again. Now the NAEP scores are off the wonky donk, but nobody has ever mentioned the fact children can't read. None of them ever talked about, it was all what they wanted, their social issues. But is that I turned around and people were like, did you just, yes, I'm ashamed. Who are they? They don't run the world. And as long as we act like they do, then they will. But, and then when you know,
I mean, and all of it, like I said, all of it is by design, though. I mean, when you look at it, you know, I mean, and you have the CRT. I mean, because it's all about the racial divide in the education system bred by, like you say, the people from these communist countries. And the education system itself is coming. If you are in a school and they're telling you to, you know, you have these kids that, okay, they're lowering the scores now for the black kids, or because black kids can't do math. That's communism.
yeah, that's
You
what
got
equity is.
CRT. That's
Equity.
communism. This is keeping a divide. You are, I mean, and it's not just dumbing down the black kids, it's dumbing down all the kids, but you're keeping that divide because you have some kids be like, man, why? I mean, you know, it's because of the black kids that we have this, and the black kids, it's because of the white kids. Because why are they doing that? Because it's the communism that has bred and infiltrated into our education system that will continue to do this shit to keep the divide of the races of the kids, instead of helping, you know, because, you know, I spoke against CRT every time I went to the school board, you know, and I mentioned, I'm like, if I had bought into this CRT myth, to this communist myth that black kids can't learn better than Asian kids or white kids, then my son would not be a doctor or MD right now. You know, and you have these people that are still buying, because the Democrats are still using the same playbook
Yep.
of the communists. You know, and you know, and this is why, I mean, and now, you know, I'm hoping, and you know, and I did this series in hopes that because more people become like you and not scared of being called a fucking racist, because you're telling the truth about our education system and how it's hurting our youth as a whole, and it's bred in communists. So what do you have
People
here?
ask how I go up to the Senate, is that I know who works for who. And so whether it's the Virginia board, as I invited my all-white school board in the name of equity to quit their positions. So if you're going to keep pushing this on our kids, I'm not a white privilege. It's not my white fragility. I'll talk about it all day long. But when you don't like it, you're not going to call me a racist or a bigot. So this is from the platform of the Communist Party, State of Illinois, 1936. For the protection of youth, want to get elected, say you're going to protect children. And people will just, they don't care what else it says. For the provisions of the state of vocational training and jobs at union wages pending the passage of the American Youth Act by Congress. For a public works program to include sports fields, skating, swimming pools, clean bathing, beaches, given free accommodation to all youth clubs, sport and dancing clubs without discrimination, for free lunches and car fare for school children of unemployed. It's like, who's do they have a genie ball? Like, do they have a magic ball? And this is what people don't get about America, is that America is founded on individual rights, not collective rights. And this is that people look at that. Why wouldn't you want to give children that? Is that, well, what is that people have to start looking at the process of how. Is that if that removes freedom of any kind from anybody, it doesn't work in this country. And that's what it's done. But here, schools and teachers, for a free public school education for every child. This is before compulsory education. For every child from kindergarten through university, with a full school day, a full school year of no less than 180 days for class enrollment not to exceed 30 with special provision for exceptional children. Payment in full of state obligation to elementary schools delinquent for past 5 years, statewide tenure for teachers, and adequate pensions for all teachers in state. Opposition to all attacks on right of academic freedom, such as loyalty oaths, censorship of social science textbooks, interference with the right to organize. That's for teachers. And that's part of the communist platform. Okay, so it's like people forget like what I just said with what it's connected to. Okay, that's part of the communist platform, 1936.
And that's out of Illinois. And like I said, the Communist Party of USA actually started in 1919.
Yes, it did.
Chicago, Illinois. So, yeah, I mean, because
Chicago is that Chicago, like you talked about one episode, is that there's so, I mean, there was the communist, now they don't ever name it. There, you know, there's a Chicago communist school. It was Chicago. It was the college, the Teachers College of Chicago, which is where John Dewey and all these Looney Tunes got their education from. But it's like you read this, and this is the part of how do you destroy a nation? Get them in a captured environment. And so when they had white children, and then they had to do what? Forced integration. And this is part like what people don't.
And they had to do that. I mean, here's what I said before. And like I say, I piss some people off when I say this, but as far as education, let's just say that, and you know, it's more than that. But as far as education, Black children were more educated and highly educated, because I went through some of these social justice warriors, these people in the 1990s. All of them were educated. All of these people were degreed. Harvard, you know, you had Princeton, you had all these Black communists were degreed, were people with education, right? So before
all those colleges were captured, is that teachers' colleges were literally developed, like they were the after product, is that teacher colleges didn't exist less than over 100 years ago. Is that you didn't have to go they had to go learn. And so the problem today is that even if you consider yourself a conservative teacher, if you have gone to any sort of education, like academia, you have some sort of incorrect pedagogy, even if you've kept your social mind correct on how children learn, and that it's 100% they have pathologized, medicalized. You have some sort of behaviorist training of human beings in your style of education, which is absolutely incorrect. But so we go back to the incorrectness of the mentality, is that so before compulsory education and government educated, illiteracy was 4.7%. In 1933, before forced integration and the civil rights movement, urban Blacks were 90% literate. Now, 50% of adults cannot read a book written at the 8th grade level. 45 million are functionally illiterate and read below a 5th grade level. 3 out of 4 people on welfare cannot read. 20% of Americans read below the level needed to earn a living wage. 50% of the unemployed between 16 and 21 cannot read well enough to be considered functionally literate. Between 46 and 51% of Americans have an income well below poverty level because of their ability to read. So when you look at before it, it's not that hard. You cannot draw any other line but a straight one. You can't, and then it becomes, it is a business. There is no right to education. If this was a business, how long would you keep investing billion? Okay, every year it's like $3 billion in like 1980, and we're at like 100 and some billion from the federal government alone. How many newfangled ideas in your business would you be allowed? And your business continues to fail, kill people before they shutter the doors on your business and thought of we have to have a new plan. Like, it's really that simple. Listen to this.
It's no secret that cities and states use 3rd and 4th grade math and reading scores to determine just how many jails and prisons that they will need in a certain area. But have you ever asked yourself just how they are able to determine and predict future incarcerations just from some test scores? Hold on, I'm finna tell you. They are using something that is known as the Matthew effect. What is the Matthew effect? The Matthew effect states that if your child does not learn certain key fundamental skills by the 3rd grade, then chances are they will never learn them, and the gaps that they have will continue to grow. According to statistics, illiteracy leads to higher crime rates, and higher crime rates leads to higher incarceration. So if they take those test scores within the area of the 3rd and 4th grade and they see that they are low in reading and low in math, well, then that tells the state, that tells the city that more prisons and more jails need to go up because these 3rd and 4th graders, statistically, will be illiterate.
This
You
is
know,
one
when
of
you
the
talk about that,
I had to go find a black teacher, and this is what makes me so angry. Is I can't tell people that they are it's called forecasting prison matriculation.
Yeah.
By 4th grade, nobody believed me. I had to go, and that's what makes me so angry. I had to go and I had to look on TikTok and find a black teacher to prove that point. I couldn't say it.
Right. Yeah, I know, because you're racist. You're a big racist. You just don't like black people. I mean, but if you look at the correlation of what you brought out and what you said, you talk about straight lines, right? So let's draw this line. The line of the illiteracy rate from 1933 to now, through the black population, and then you draw another line of when prisons started to become privatized, where they began to profit on prison.
Our governor owns, if you go under VPAP, I got clean in River City Regional, and our governor owns, and that nobody ever knows who owns these. Well, when our governor ran, he had to declare it on VPAP of Riverside Regional, is that over $250,000. You don't have to say how much, but so our governor owns. So you talk about that, and it's like,
yeah, they own the prison systems. They design and they keep them illiterate. I mean, it is in black and white. It's not Jerome Bell or Ann Tatus saying this shit. It's right there. And we had a black teacher that verified it for us because, you know, I'm a coon and she's a racist. So we had another black teacher that verified this for us. And you know, like I said before, black people are more literate before the civil rights movement, before segregation, before desegregation, before forced integration of the schools. All of this was the communist plan using black people. But hey, their books are better than your books over here. Even though you're 90% literate, using your books over here, they have better books over there. So don't you want to go over there and become stupid using the good books? This is what they did. This was the game that they played on black people and white people. Oh, it's racist because the white people have the best schools, the black people have the shitty books. But guess what? We were smarter. We were educated. We went to college. We got degrees. We could read. We could write with these shitty books, right? But now, where are we?
But if you read about like forced integration, is that the people that were outspoken, even Malcolm X, is that they said is that why are we're accepting, just like equity, is that blacks are unable, they're not smart enough, just like voter IDing, they're not smart enough to get on a bus and go to the DMV. It's racist to ask them to do that because they're not smart enough to do it. So there are plenty of people who were outspoken about they wanted, you know, segregation, but not forced integration. Right. Is that because now when you can see the communists and the Marxists speaking out because they're still talking about it, is because the problem is that if white people having a choice of moving and that whole district thing, that's why is that there's still no segregation or forced integration today, because because white people can still move wherever, have the freedom to move. So can Black people to move wherever they want. But is that they're still talking about busing, is that the schools will not be integrated. There will be no actual segregation until you force white children and Black children in the same amounts to be in the building together. But is if you look up forced multiculturalism, and that's a good thing to look up for people, no nation that has attempted forced multiculturalism has ever succeeded. And you can read about Brown v. Board, is that they wanted to do it as fast as possible. And you look at it, is that there were Black parents that were, and plenty of people that spoke out and were like, why would you want to force people, especially children? And then you look at how the whites reacted, as I'm not saying it's right, but it's like, if your brain has been set to a certain mode and you were raised a certain way, and then all of a sudden you have to switch that switch and you freak out a little bit, it's like, there were Black, and then they sent their children into that. There were testimonies from Black children who's what they had to put up with. But they blamed the white children for being racist instead of looking at the actual problem, was that warp speeding, putting forced integration maybe not have been a good idea.
Well, that was and that was the communism of it all.
Right.
That was the force of the racial concept of the communism. We have to force this race issue to create the divide, to usher in our communist agenda. We have to do that. I'm gonna pop you up. Go ahead.
So when we talk about, like, there's people that you don't ever hear about, Reverend Dr. and there's so many Jacksons, Joseph H. Jackson, Reverend Joseph H. Jackson. He was the largest African American, like, if you know about like the National Baptist Convention, like this was like him and Martin Luther King. Like he did not believe that the time, effort, and money of the churches should go towards do anything but preaching the word of God and doing this in a godly manner. And so this is part of his speech from I forget what year it was, like 1961. We're talking about like tens of thousands of African Americans in a standing ovation. Is that he said, we cannot fall into the trap of extremists, Black or white, who want to force us into a dual society based on race. Something I can't read. Against the Christian tenets of human dignity, brotherhood of men, and love of one's neighbor. We cannot feebly admit that the moral and spiritual fiber of this nation, which has brought us so far, is insufficient to embrace the principle of equal opportunity for all of our citizens. We must remain one people and continue to refine the process of justice and equal opportunity for all. For the alternative is less progress, more violence, less hope, more misery. We shall reach our destination either as one people or not at all. This is one of the people you don't hear about. And he also said, no hen has the right to cackle who hasn't laid an egg. Black power folk, many with no soap and no bathtubs, are cackling about their power. They need to do something first. Black power is organized hate, and it does not describe constructive and productive action on the part of American Negroes.
Mm-hmm. And this is why I'm gonna jump in real quick, because you said that you never hear about this guy. And here's why you never hear about this guy is because Taylor, who is Gardner Taylor, well, not only that, you talk about the National Baptist Convention, right? They had tensions in the national, in the NBC, and they came ahead, and you talk about this annual meeting. It was 1960 annual meeting when Gardner Taylor, who was a King family friend, ran against Jackson, that you spoke about, for the presidency. And this is because Jackson spoke out against the tactics used by the Freedom Riders, who were communists.
Yes, they were.
The white Freedom Riders were communists that went with the Black people to make sure that they did it right, to make sure that they that they rioted in the correct way to make sure that that there's nonviolence or whatever, right? So his counter to King's position on the importance of the direct action protest to the civil rights led to his reelection as the president, right? His action against the civil rights movement led to his reelection as the president of the NBC at the annual meeting in 1961. And you know what that did? That convention where a Jackson supporter sustained injuries on the convention floor who got murdered, right? That action led the NBC walkout led by Dr. Martin Luther King that resulted in the formation of the Communist Progressive National Baptist Convention.
Yes.
That's what happened. That's why you don't hear about this guy, because he was opposed to what Dr. Martin Luther King was doing, and Dr. Martin Luther King left the NBC and started the Progressive National Baptist Convention.
Yeah. But it's like, so I continuously learn. And so for me, it's like, so when I learned, this is from Archie Moore. He was a heavy, lightweight. I mean, we made it because he was like, he was anti everything that the civil rights movement was doing. We made it because we had a goal and we were willing to work for it. Don't talk to me of your guaranteed national income. Any fool knows that this is insanity. Do we bring those who work to get ahead down to the level of those who never gave a damn? The world owes nobody, black or white, a living. God helps the man who helps himself.
And what does the Democrat Party talk about now? The national income, right? You hear these socialists and these people running for office like Mandami and AOC, all these days. What are they talking about? The national income. That's communist. That's what they were talking about. It just ties all in. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
So this was read into congressional record, and you can look up the 1930s were tougher, boxer KOs, hate mongers, rabid pleas. And so he says, the devil is at work in America, and it is up to us to drive him out. Snipers and looters, white and black, deserve no mercy. Those who would profit from their brother's misfortune deserve no mercy. And those who set up fellow Americans upon each other deserve no mercy. I'll fight the man who calls me an Uncle Tom. I have broken bread with heads of state, chatted with presidents, and traveled all over the world. I was born into a ghetto, but I refuse to stay there. I am a Negro. I am proud to be one. I am also an American, and I am proud to be that. And he goes up here and he talks about there are members of Black community who call for separate nation, self-determination, which was, there was Lenin and communists. Well, I do not intend to give up 1 square inch of America. I'm not going to be told I must live in a restricted area. Isn't that what we've been fighting for to overcome? And then there's the element that calls for a return to Africa. Because that was a lot of this is like Pan-Africanism. People don't have any idea about that.
That Pan-Africanism bullshit. Yeah, that and W.E.B. Du Bois was part of that. You had I mentioned the guy's name last week. I can't think of his name right now. But let's return to Africa. Let's go back to Africa. That.
Well, this is what Reverend Jackson had to say. He said, "To hell with America should leave and go to the country that they love." And he says, "For those who do not have the money, we will pay their fare." Like is what Reverend Jackson, the previous one, sell to the people who were talking about Pan-Africanism. He was like, and so when I tell the people, okay, well, here's your money. You want to leave? You want to go somewhere that has communism and act like a communist? There's plenty of countries. We'll pay for you to get there, but you can't do it here, is what I tell people. And there were other ones like Reverend Henry Mitchell, Maddie Coney. I mean, these are names that people, is that everybody should know. Is, the freedom from the federal government, is that these people got it. And, before, and so I just want to play this before we run out of time, but she taught in Watts, okay? And this was in 1997. This is just a clip. If you guys, on YouTube, if you look up Camp Constitution, I know how it's been around forever. It's a great resource, but people like Dr. Mildred Pierce, or Foster, no, Dr. Mildred Pierce, the first African-American female doctor to graduate from Harvard, who is one of the leaders in like pro-life, she's a Black woman. But these people they are dying. And so we have to document what they said. She taught in Watts. Okay. Just to give a little context. Ooh, not there yet.
Oh, do I have to play it or you do? I think you have to play it. It's not playing. It's not playing, Ann.
It's not? Hold on.
No volume anyway.
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna. Oh, it's that silly button. All right, try it now. Your volume?
No volume.
No. No.
I can't hear it. You guys hear anything? I don't. I can't hear anything.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna pull it up on YouTube. So just talk about something real quick. I'll pull it up.
All right. Hey, this is what happens when you produce your own show. All right, let's check out the chat real quick. Let's go through. Hey, Jamie, what's happening, brother? Send me that school stuff. Hey, okay, I'll have Ann send it to me and I'll get it to you. Jackie over here blowing it up. Just look at how they got rid of the faces of the products that were created by Black entrepreneurs. Yeah, that's true. And I mean, you know what? It's so sad. You know what's sad, right? They were getting rid of the Uncle Cracker off of Cracker Barrel, and people pitched a bitch. But I wish more people would have pitched a bitch in the community about Uncle Ben's and Aunt Jemima and the Indian on the Land O'Lakes. I mean, because all of that was just part of getting rid of history. All of that is basically the communist stuff, right? So if you guys don't believe that the Democrat Party is communist, I hope that we pretty much said that. Like I said that Booker T. Washington wanted the trained into the vocational training, where leftists like Du Bois and Trotter, they bitterly assailed this philosophy. They didn't want Negro use. They wanted Negro use to avoid the skilled trades because they didn't want them being able to take care of themselves, right? And what happened when they kept the menio, as they call it, Black kids from doing these trade skills, the vacuum was filled by what? White immigrant labor. White immigrant labor. You got that? Is that ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, hold up. Okay, let's try it now.
Agree?
Oh, I don't understand what's going on with the volume. You're up.
The other video I played worked, didn't it?
Yeah, everything worked except this for some reason. Press play. Let me see something. No. It's weird. I think it just cut us off or something. Maybe that's what happened. And remember, Dr. King was excommunicated from the basket. Yeah, right. He was excommunicated from the Baptist Church by J.H. Jackson after he went to the progressive. Yeah. What is it? Isola Foster on education from October. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Before we bail up out of here, we got a couple of minutes left. Couple of minutes. Isola.
She's from Watts, California, and what she says is on point. She talks about ebonics. She talks about, am I a Negro now, or am I colored? Or am I like? She talks about everything, and it's like so on point.
Okay, let me pull it up. Hold on.
A teacher in Watts, California, and the South Central area of Los Angeles for nearly 3 decades. She's a columnist for Headway magazine and the author of the book, what's right for all Americans.
Thank you. It's always good to be among friends. I'm usually out.
Okay, now how far do you want me to go into this? Because this one's like 49 minutes. You know where you want me to start at? And
I turned it off so I didn't get echo. But if you just go
okay,
like 3 minutes, everybody else.
I'll just go from the beginning for 3 minutes.
Yeah, like the first 3 minutes, she hits home.
Issues with those who do not believe. It's not that we're preaching to the choir, but we do have to get the message out to everyone. Actually, I've been teaching for 33 years, and during that time, I have seen some major changes in our public schools. Basically, what has happened is that our children are being educated today to become world citizens rather than American citizens. And that is very, very dangerous. When I first started teaching, the trend then was values clarification. Now, I have to tell you, my values were very clear. So I didn't quite understand why the schools were in the business of clarifying values. Well, I learned that really what it meant was that our children was to not have a value system at all. And this came about actually in the long before I came into teaching, with the introduction of psychology and psychiatry into our public school system. And I remember Thorndike, who said, and his theory rang true with the rest of those who have demonized our children, that man has no soul and only react to stimuli. And that is the way our children are being taught. And of course, they have no soul because their soul was taken out of their teaching in that 1962 act that took God out of our schools. Had nothing to do with separation of church and state. What it meant was to take away from our children a sense of direction, of guidance for their young lives. Now, I am very critical of the movements of the 60s. I blame them for much of the ills that's facing our country today. The Chicano movement has given our schools overcrowded classrooms, funding that is just taken over educational funding now with bilingual funds. As a matter of fact, that's what that Ebonics thing was all about, money. Bilingual funding is the biggest gold pot now of educational funding. And Black teachers, Black students were not considered minority bilingual because they are American and they speak English. So our illustrious Black leaders decided that no, they're not American, they're African, and no, they don't speak English, they speak Ebonics. And as a result, now they also are getting some of this bilingual funding. I also blame the feminist movement because they have turned our little girls into wanting to be little boys. They have turned our young women against men. They have brought in abortion on demand, anytime, any place, anywhere, with or without parental consent. And I also blame the homosexual movement because they are in our schools now and they are pushing these programs that are detrimental to the lives of our young people and to the future of America. But most important, am I distressed with the political Black movement? I am distressed because
1 second, and you know she mentioned that, right? So to say, the communists present homosexuality, number 26, part of the communist goals, present homosexuality, degeneracy, promiscuity as normal, natural, healthy in the schools. Okay, I'm going back. Sorry.
As I am part of the race of people who were brought here as slaves and are now being used to enslave all of America. And I see this in our public schools. We in Los Angeles, the second largest school district in America, have all of these groups ingrained in teachers' unions. You have your gay and lesbian commission for your school board and your teachers' union, your what they call African American Commission, your Chicano or Mexican American Commission, your all, you name it, Native American, and they've divided our people into all of these groups, each with their own agenda, and they're using our children as political pawns to support their agenda. Now,
the only thing she didn't do was call it communist, and she may continue on to call it communist. But there it is, right there, though. Right, I'm gonna have to stop right there because we're getting that. But there it is. Go look. I'm actually gonna finish listening to the rest of this myself after the show.
This was the year before I graduated high school, so I try to put. I graduated in '98, so I did not get any of this, and so what people have to stop doing is saying, "Well, I didn't get any of that, so it didn't happen."
Because that wasn't the generation that was going to be captured.
Right.
This generation that's and the generation before this, the generation after you graduate, I graduated in '84, but the generation after you graduated, that's the generation below you, right? You know, so you figure it started 1997. That's the generation right there. So those are the kids that were in kindergarten. Those are the kids that was in elementary school.
This is
and
why I'm
grade
only
school.
friends with like 70, 80-year-old people, is because at 45, anybody younger than me, I can barely have a conversation with. But is what she's talking about here, like Thorndike, the psychologist, it's like values all,
Sorry.
you know, mental ed, sex ed, death ed, drug ed. That's what they're talking about. Values clarification. They're going to break down your kids' values, ask you all about it, and they're going to re-clarify those values for them, which is why you have children coming home who you don't recognize that you raised within your house.
I just played that for 5 minutes, right? I if it wasn't 50 minutes, I would just play the whole thing. I think we might start with this next week, even though. But
good. It's one that I mean, I'll send you a bunch of them of Black
you
educators
guys, I mean, just that 5 minutes was the strongest 5 minutes that summed up what's going on in our world and education system than any 5 minutes that I've heard anybody say probably in the last fucking 40 years.
Yeah. And it's
that
the
5
fact that
minutes
she's
right there.
Black
And to tie it all together, and that ties it in with how communism and Negroes, she laid it 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And now how they're using not only the Negroes, but all these other races and genders, and this is all communism, y'all. So
and it's all, if you read any of these documents I tell you about, they all tell you is that they have the end. They're going to use blacks, and the end goal is is all about getting rid of capitalism. And all of these documents, and they will tell you, and I tell them all the time, go and look up Lenin and what the Russians were doing. They'll tell you blatantly. Go to CPUSA, the website. They'll tell you exactly what they're doing and what they're pissed about. Go to beautifultrouble.org, which is Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, now made into a website, and how exactly they're going to manipulate, propagandize, and do everything that they're doing. Is that it's all out there. They're pissed that you don't know that, because they want it known so that more people know. So
absolutely, there it is. And yeah,
thanks
it's call it what it is. Hey, girl, thanks for coming in. Thanks for always drop. I know I can have you on for another hour. Maybe we'll have you back next week. Shit, maybe we'll finish this up.
Watch this whole thing next week.
Oh, I'm gonna watch it now, and I'm gonna play it again next week. I'm definitely gonna play it next week because this is fire. I say those first 5 minutes were just.
But Camp Constitution is that they've got a whole lot of. I mean, you could probably go through there and find 8 shows worth of stuff worth watching.
Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe we'll just do that.
Right, but take care. See you later.
All right, thank you, and appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the Lions Den, girl. All right, later. There it is, y'all. Boom. Wow. All right, so we're gonna start with that next week. I'm gonna hold that over for next week, man. That right there. I mean, but that sums it up, right? That sums it. Hey, but hey, what I want to do is thank you. Thank all of you for tuning in, sticking with me these last 4 weeks. So that's when it started, y'all. Look back, 1997. 1997. That's when it started. to hit the education system. That's when the communists took over the education system here in America. All right. So, like I said, thank you. Hey, I hope you all have a great week. Have a great day tomorrow. Have a great Labor Day holiday for those that's still off work and that will be off work for Labor Day. You guys hang tight, hang cool. Thank you, Jamie CSC over there. Thank you, Jackie, for hanging out. Thank you, everybody over there. Thank you, Carolyn and Louie and Lily Bees and Susan and all you people. I appreciate y'all tuning in. And my Getter chat is just blowing up. My brother's keeper. You got TBB. You got all the crew over there, man. I thank you guys for tuning in. About 1,500 of y'all over there. I gotta go back and read this chat, man. This chat is just blowing up, man. My brother's keeper was on fire. VA Warrior Mom again. Thank you. Right, but hey, we only bring it to you the truth. We bring it to you uncensored, unedited, unfiltered, unafraid, unapologetic, unscripted. This is how we bring it to you on the Radical Republicans live show. I am your host, the J Black Mamba of the airwaves. And y'all take care. I'll see y'all next week. Let's get it, Stevie. You guys take care. Peace.
Very superstitious, writings on the wall. Very superstitious, letters about to fall. 13-month-old baby, broke the looking glass. 7 years of bad the things in your past. When you believe in things that you don't understand, it will suffer. Because you shut it wash your face and hands. Let me go. Oh, that you can. Keep me in the dream. Keep me going. You don't want my saying. Sad is the song. When you believe in things you don't understand, you suffer. It's just another way. Yeah. Very superstitious, nothing more to say. Very superstitious, the devil's on his way. Open the canvas. Yes, believe in things that you don't understand. Yes,